4-year-old boy ran into the woods before sunset. And 5 years later, what they found left the entire investigation team in stunned silence. It was a weekend afternoon that seemed perfectly ordinary in rural Oregon. A small family, a picnic, and a curious, energetic little boy, just 4 years old. In a matter of minutes, Liam Carter vanished as if he'd never been there at all. No screams, no footprints, no camera footage, no witnesses. It was as if the forest had swallowed him whole. But what truly made this disappearance impossible to explain was what was found later. A piece of evidence discovered somewhere no one believed Liam could have reached. A shirt spotless, untouched by dirt, laid out neatly atop a sheer cliff face that made even seasoned adults hesitate. This wasn't just a simple accident. And if someone placed it there, then the real question wasn't, where did Liam go? It was who took him there, and why Willowa Creek was the kind of quiet, almost forgotten place you'd skip over on a tourist map of Oregon. No one expected that on a Saturday afternoon, it would become the epicenter of a disappearance that would haunt thousands for years to come. It was around 4 p.m. A cool, golden afternoon. Sunlight flickered through the tall pine trees like an old film reel. Melissa Carter, her 4-year-old son Liam, and their close friends, the Thompsons, a couple with 2 young children, had just finished setting up camp near the forest edge. They had hiked about a mile from the parking lot to reach the Setia flat patch of ground near a small creek. Liam was wearing a green hoodie with a world map printed on its soft khaki pants and a pair of Skechers she's 4th birthday gift from Grandpa. He darted around the clearing, wide-eyed, laughing like he'd discovered buried treasure. He and the Thompson kids, Emma age 7 and Julian age 5, started playing tag in the woods, with rules only children understand. Tag, someone you're safe. Get tagged, you're the monster. Melissa remembered seeing Liam sprinting in circles, laughing wildly as Julian chased him. She turned back to prep dinner hot pasta and cocoa. Just 5 minutes she would repeat for the next 5 years. Around 4:27 p.m., Emma returned first, out of breath. Liam ran into the bushes back there, and he won't answer, she said. Julian came next. I think he's hiding because I almost tagged him. No laughter, no footsteps, no reply. For the first 10 minutes, the adults thought he was still playing hide-and-seek. They split up to call his name checked behind trees and rock crevices. But in the next 10 minutes, panic set in. Melissa screamed Liam's name, running in circles. Liam, Liam. If you hear Mommy say something. Only the wind answered, whispering through the trees. No one had seen where Liam went. No footsteps, no snap of twigs, no cry for help. Cell service was spotty. Finally, one of the men climbed to higher ground to call 911. The official missing child report was logged at 5:03 p.m., nearly 40 minutes after Liam vanished. That gap from Emma's first alert to the first emergency call would become a critical detail in the investigation. In a place like Willowa, 30 minutes is all it takes for a child to vanish forever. When the call went through, local law enforcement moved fast. Sergeant Caleb Monroe handled 2 lost hiker cases, but never a missing child was the first on scene. It was about 6:15 p.m. The sky darkened. Clouds rolled in. Melissa sat slumped on a rock, gripping her son's jacket, her face pale, tearless. Mr. Thompson tried to comfort his wife, but the panic was in his eyes too. Monroe locked down the campsite, instructed everyone to stay put, and expanded the search radius to a full mile. But time was turning into the enemy. At night, Willowa's forest drops below 40°F. For a 4-year-old boy with no jacket, no water, and no light, every minute mattered. Search teams began to arrive. K-9 units were deployed. Drones scanned the forest, but found no heat signatures. Then came the first strange discovery, just before 8 p.m. The search dogs stopped abruptly near a damp moss bed, about 600 meters from the camp. Then nothing. No forward motion. No reaction. An animal behavior expert later said, if Liam passed through there, the scent shouldn't vanish that fast. He may have been picked up by a vehicle or entered a space that neutralized scent. That quote would later appear in the official investigation report. Meanwhile, veteran searcher Grace Holden, with 11 years of rescue experience, found a snapped tree branch on a steep slope. She photographed it, marked coordinates, but when she returned with her team, it was gone. as if someone had come back and erased the trace. That first night passed with 18 search members and no solid lead. Melissa didn't sleep. She sat by the fire eyes, locked on the edge of the forest. I feel like he's still close. But no one can hear him. No one, she whispered over and over. By morning, the team grew to nearly 50 with aerial support. They split into 6 search groups. A volunteer meteorologist joined calculating wind and humidity conditions from the night before to assess how far Liam's voice might have traveled. His conclusion sent chills. If he did scream, last night's reverse wind and dense humidity would have scattered the sound. Someone standing 100 meters away might have heard nothing. By the second morning, hundreds of volunteers flooded Willowa Creek. News spread across the state. A local TV station went live at 7 a.m. Photos of Melissa gripping Liam's birthday photo, his beaming smile behind a cake with 4 candles, aired on national broadcasts. People arrived with drones, infrared cameras, specialized compasses, all for a child they had never met. Hope spread like ripples, but each ripple ended in silence. Around 10 a.m., Search Group 4 found a torn scrap of paper crayon drawing of a house on a hill with a red sun. Melissa froze. It looked almost identical to a drawing Liam had stuck to their fridge. The paper was logged as evidence, but by afternoon, lab results crushed the hope. It had been wet for too long. The crayon type didn't match what Liam used. Another spark snuffed out. By noon, a man named Walter Brent appeared, calling himself a psychic. He claimed Liam was in a wooden cabin 4 kilometers north. Some demanded police check immediately. They did. It was a decaying shack. No signs of life, no Liam. Frustration built. Some online accused Melissa. An anonymous post read, "The work-from-home engineer, Mom, how'd she lose sight of her kid?" The rumor spread faster than any radio signal in those woods. That night, a child's piece of clothing was found in a rock, crevice mud-stained, torn on one side. Everyone held their breath. Melissa was brought in. She cried silently and shook her head. "That's not Liam's. He never wore that fabric." Hope shattered again. Day 3 came and went. No new evidence. Volunteers began to withdraw. The media turned their attention elsewhere. The story of Liam Carter faded from the front page. Only Melissa remained, eyes frozen at the forest's edge, still listening for a sound, a sign, a dream. In the search leader's field notes, one handwritten line stood alone. "We don't know what happened, but this child wasn't lost. He was taken, and someone out there knew exactly what they were doing." 3 days after Liam disappeared, the search teams temporarily pulled back to reorganize. Nearly 70 people had scoured every rock crevice and stream bed, yet no clear trace had been found. As the silence dragged on, it gave way to a deeper, more troubling question. Was something being kept from them? Police began re-interviewing everyone present at the campsite, starting with the Thompson family, Nathan, Claire, and their 2 children, Emma and Julian. Each was questioned separately. What they said didn't quite line up. Emma, age 7, first claimed Liam ran toward the big rock at the forest edge. But in her second interview, she said he had run into the bushes near the creek while playing hide-and-seek. Police noted inconsistent spatial references, story shifts slightly with each telling. Julian, 5, couldn't recall much. Beyond Liam ran faster than me and disappeared. But when asked to draw what he saw, he sketched a man in a hat, standing behind a tree. When asked who the man was, Julian replied, "I don't know, but I think he went with Liam." Claire Thompson said she heard fast footsteps toward the slope while cooking, but assumed it was just the kids. Nathan said he didn't see anything, just turned when Melissa started shouting. Yet Melissa remembered clearly. Nathan was the first one to run in the direction Liam went. He said, "I saw the green of his hoodie." That detail raised flags. Later, Nathan walked it back. Maybe I imagined it. I was panicking. These small contradictions became critical. If no one truly saw Liam walk into the woods then, who was the last person to really see him, no one could say for sure. Another oddity, Claire claimed her phone died around noon, but cell tower records showed her device stayed powered on until 6:02 p.m., over 90 minutes after the 911 call. When asked, again, Claire stammered, "I must be remembered wrong, I wasn't paying attention." An internal investigator wrote, "It feels like the group is withholding something. Whether it's shock, fear, or knowledge, they're not telling us everything." 1 week after Liam vanished, police widened the investigation. They began reviewing every vehicle seen near Willowa Creek that day, starting with footage from the only nearby gas station 12 miles away. At 3:12 p.m., less than an hour before Liam went missing, silver SUV pulled up. A man wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses got out. He avoided the camera, paid in cash, and drove off toward the forest. There was no front license plate. Rear plate was too blurry to read. None of the campers reported seeing that man or vehicle. Another clue emerged from volunteer searcher Roberta Lee, a retired teacher with 20 years survival field experience. In her self-kept journal, she noted at 5:42 p.m. on day 3, heard fast footsteps west of the rock ravine, about 5 seconds. No visual. Dog reacted briefly. She reported it to her team lead, but according to internal files, her note was never logged into the official search record. When questioned later, the intake officer said we were overloaded, figured it was another team. Melissa found out from an independent journalist and demanded answers. Why didn't they search that spot immediately? One single sound, after 3 days of nothing, and they dismissed it. The case team responded by restructuring the investigation, sorting all information into 3 categories: confirmed verified by GPS footage or devices, contradicted conflicting eyewitness statements, overlooked details missed or dismissed too quickly. From the overlooked pile, a name jumped out: Colin Reyes. A contract forest ranger was scheduled to be on duty at Willowa's West Gate that day, but he reported calling in sick. No medical record supported that. No one had seen him for 48 hours after Liam vanished. A call was logged to Reyes' secondary phone at 2:49 p.m., just 90 minutes before Liam disappeared, from an untraceable number. When brought in, Reyes claimed, "I don't remember that call," and said someone else may have used his phone. Not enough for charges, but enough to raise suspicion. By now, the case no longer resembled a neat circle. It looked like a web holes everywhere, missing links, and a growing sense that someone knew far more than they let on, and was working hard to make everything look like nothing at all. 10 days after Liam vanished, and as search crews dwindled, a man named Marcus Whitaker, 62, contacted police with something unusual. A retired sound engineer, living 3 miles as the crow flies from the campsite, he had a habit of placing autonomous recorders in the woods to capture wilderness symphonies. Marcus handed over audio from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., the day Liam disappeared. At first, it sounded like nothing birds win squirrels, but at the 117-minute mark, approximately 5:07 p.m., an odd sequence began: a light shuffle of footsteps, then a sharp shaz if someone was trying to silence a companion. Seconds later, a soft thud, like something dropping, then silence. Marcus was adamant that wasn't wildlife. That had rhythm, intent. The tape was sent to Oregon State Audio Lab. Preliminary analysis confirmed the steps matched either a small person or an adult, walking deliberately soft. The shh was in the vocal range of an adult male. Melissa listened to the clip. Her hand clutched her chest, face pale. Liam had a habit. When someone was about to find his hiding spot, he'd go shh, just like that. The tape couldn't identify who was there, but it changed everything. Independent journalist Leanna Moores followed up with locals near Willowa and uncovered something overlooked. Months before Liam vanished, a man had been seen building a temporary shelter in the woods near a secondary creek. When authorities finally checked, the shelter was empty, cleared out. No sign of who had stayed there. That man was never identified. And so, a chilling new question began to form. If Liam wasn't alone in the woods, if he didn't just wander off, then was someone already waiting for him in the shadows? 4 months after Liam's disappearance, Travis Nolana, quiet IT technician with the Eugene Police Department, stumbled across something no one expected. While sorting archived data, he discovered an old hard drive not registered in the official system. On it were auto backups from traffic cameras along Route 74, the road that leads toward Willowa Creek. These feeds were believed to have glitched the day Liam vanished. Not expecting much, Travis began restoring files manually. Then, at 4:08 p.m., just 20 minutes before Liam was reported missing, he found it. A blurry video showed a silver SUV moving unusually slow down Route 74. The plate was unreadable, but one detail made Travis sit up straight in the back seat. Something moved quickly, something that looked like a small child's arm. He alerted his superiors immediately. The footage was sent for high-resolution enhancement aided by FBI technology. The official report stopped short of confirming identity, but the analysis read, "The moving object in the back seat matches the proportions and scale of a small child in a crouched position. Unlikely to be a shadow or object." The clip was shown to Melissa Carter. She sat silently for a long time. Then she whispered, "I can't be sure, but if that's Liam, he didn't get into that car by himself. Someone carried him." The footage was kept internal, not released to the public, to avoid compromising the case, but it was enough to reclassify the investigation possible abduction active case. As police combed through SUV registration data, a tip was called into the Lost Voices as a podcast that investigates missing persons. The caller, a woman requesting anonymity, said she once lived with a man who acted strangely and who once brought home a little boy who didn't sound like any of his relatives. He had a green hoodie with a map on it. The boy called him uncle, but never smiled. The tip led authorities to a man named Garrett Shaw. Garrett, 38, was a contract telecom technician who drifted from job to job. No criminal record, but his employment files flagged him repeatedly for erratic behavior and walking off assignments with no notice. Police tracked Garrett to a rented home about 75 miles northeast of Willowa Creek, near the small town of Eldon Lake. He lived alone, no family, few contacts. When officers knocked, Garrett was oddly calm. Asked about September 14, the day Liam disappeared, he said, "I was surveying telecom lines near East Willowa. I stayed at an old cabin. I've got the receipt." Indeed, the cabin had been rented under his name, but the owner said Garrett left unusually early the next morning without explanation. When questioned about the silver SUV, Garrett said he used to own one, but had sold it to some Mexican guy, don't remember the name. No bill of sale. No proof. Then came the detail that made investigators freeze in Garrett's home. They found a child's pair of Skechers, the same brand Liam wore. When asked, Garrett said, "I collect stuff. Found these near a dump. Thought they were weird. Kept them." Melissa examined them. "They're not Liam's," she said quietly, "but they're so close it hurts." Still, there was no direct evidence linking Garrett to Liam's abduction. Yet everything, the timeline, the car, the hoodie, the shoe, kept circling back to him. An internal memo read, "Garrett is like a shadow. He appears at the right time, disappears at the right time. Everything he does is just enough to avoid getting caught." Then a forgotten photo surfaced. Recovered from a damaged phone turned in by a hiker, the image showed Willowa in early September. In the bottom right corner, blurry obscured, was a man in a baseball cap, walking beside a small child in a green hoodie. Melissa didn't hesitate. That's it. That's the hoodie. That's Liam. The photo was analyzed. Despite the blur, AI-based shape recognition matched the man's features to Garrett Shaw with 87% confidence. A second warrant was issued. This time, police searched every inch of Garrett's property. In his garage behind a wood panel, they found a sealed plastic box. Inside, a map of the Willowa area marked with red ink trails, elevations, exit routes. Near the edge, one note stood out: 914 South Trail, the exact date Liam vanished. When questioned again, Garrett stared blankly and replied, "I just like drawing maps. I don't remember dates." The next day, Garrett disappeared. He left behind his phone, his laptop, and a single handwritten note. "No one believes me. I didn't do anything, but am tired." A statewide manhunt was launched. He was last seen at a bus stop 48 miles northwest of Eldon Lake. Since then, no signals, no sightings, no trace. Garrett Shawance, a background name, was now the center of the storm. But his vanishing raised another possibility if he wasn't involved. Then who built the story around him? And if he was involved, where had Liam been all that time? A week after Garrett Shaw vanished, an anonymous caller reached Eugene police in the middle of a heavy downpour. The voice was deep and hesitant, as though struggling to remain calm. "You're looking at the wrong guy. Garrett isn't the kidnapper. He was hired, but he didn't know the kid wasn't allowed to leave." Before the dispatcher could respond, the caller hung up. No trace of their location. That very evening, the Lost Voices podcast received an email with the subject line, "WC Audio Backup." Attached was a 2-minute encoded audio file, an old-style backup. Once decoded, forensic analysts heard an uneasy exchange between two men. One voice said, "The boy asked for my real name. I didn't tell him." The second responded, "Doesn't matter. He won't remember. You know the rules." Footsteps of a child running away, then silence. Investigators confirmed the conversation didn't come from Garrett Shaw's cabin. The ambient sounds suggested a softly insulated space like a storage container or warehouse. Simultaneously, a traffic camera in Idaho. 300 miles from Willoway captured someone resembling Garrett, walking with a blonde woman. They entered an old Dodge van, its plate deliberately obscured. The woman was not in any prior records. Internal reports shifted the case into a new realm. What began as a single disappearance now suggests federal-level organization possibly involving illegal child trafficking networks or an extremist cult. Melissa listened to the audio backup and broke down, but the chilling question now loomed. If Garrett wasn't the mastermind who hired him, and why was their conversation recorded and leaked? For the first time, the presence of a hidden network, organized purposeful, emerged from the darkness. A month passed since the anonymous call. The trail had gone cold. No new leads. Garrett remained missing. Federal resources began withdrawing, citing insufficient evidence for continued large-scale investigation. But Melissa, driven by grief and hope, refused to give up. She posted on social media, "I believe my son is still alive. If anyone out there knows anything, please speak up. Anonymous is okay. Give me a chance to find him." The appeal spread through the online search community. A volunteer group called Echo Hunt, made up of former agents, amateur analysts, ethical hackers, took up the case. They discovered a hidden clue on the dark web, an abandoned forum from 2021. One thread, titled GLC Project No Return, had coordinates and a chilling message from a user named Corvid8. "One child knows too much. He's being taken by a nameless path." Those coordinates led to a private forest in northern Idaho, 90 miles, north, containing an old 19th century mining camp obscured on modern satellite maps. A small investigation team was dispatched. Inside a dilapidated wooden cabin, they found a single sign of life, a crude chalk drawing on the wall, a map with mountains, and a figure of a mother raising her arm. At the bottom, in a child's block, letters Liam was. Instead of clarity, the clue deepened the mystery. The location a ghostly mine camp had shown no signs of habitation for over a decade. No DNA, no belongings beyond the drawing. Forensic handwriting analysis suggested the letters had shaky childlike handwriting, matching Liam's preschool style with about 70% certainty, still not conclusive. Then a private investigator shocked the team. 2 years earlier, a boy named Elijah vanished 50 miles away, also 4 years old. His mother, too, had received a whispered audio clip. He misses his mom a lot. No official connection had been made. There was a 2-year gap. Yet the pattern was a like forest disappearance. No trace, a man in a cap. This pointed to a terrifying hypothesis. This may not be a one-off abduction. There could be a coordinated operation, one or more operators running a precise concealed program to abduct certain children from remote wilderness settings. And then came the final shocking layer. An FBI report from 2017 detailed a man named Jonathan Vell, an ex-terrain mapping specialist, had designed a psychological study simulating traceless child disappearances to observe community and media reactions. The ethics board shut it down. Yet it was also known that Vell had been a consultant for the company Garrett Shaw worked for. Suddenly, the narrative collapsed. This seemed far more than a crime. It seemed like a planned, funded operation, protected, deliberate, hidden in plain sight. And that is the most horrifying possibility of all. Nearly 6 years have passed since Liam Carter disappeared, yet his case remains open. No arrests, no charges, and no confirmation of whether the little boy is alive. But there's also no proof that he's gone. Every theory still stands, coexisting like an open wound that refuses to heal. Melissa still lives in Eugene, Oregon. She never left the home, once filled with Liam's laughter and drawings, the one where tiny footsteps used to echo down the hall. That house has now become a small non-profit center where Melissa helps other parents with missing children. She calls it the Map Room, named after Liam's childhood love for maps. On her desk, there's still an old drawing forest trails scribbled with the words, "Find the place no one else is looking." She reads it every day like a mantra, not just for Liam, but for all the children the world has quietly forgotten. In an interview, she once said, "I don't know if my son is alive, but I know this, I am still his mother, and a mother never stops." Since then, dozens of families have come to the map room. They share information, cross-reference files, spot the gaps others missed. Some leads have even reopened old investigations. None have been fully solved, but as Melissa says, we've done something the system wouldn't. We didn't give up. What haunts people about Liam's case isn't just his absence. It's the absence of justice. And that's what changed his mother's life and the lives of those watching. Melissa is no longer the grieving mother begging for answers. She's the one asking the questions and forcing a nation to reconsider. How many missing children have we ignored? How many signs were dismissed as coincidence? And how much truth has been buried by those who knew exactly how to hide it? At this point, the investigation is no longer about finding one boy. It's about reclaiming justice inside a system that's gotten used to forgetting. Throughout her journey, Melissa discovered she was not alone. Hundreds, maybe thousands of other families across America carry the same silent grief. Children who vanished without a headline, without a campaign, without legal support, especially families of color in rural or low-income communities. A 2022 study by the National Missing Children's Analysis Institute revealed over 40% of missing children in the U.S. are Black, yet fewer than 15% of their cases are ever covered in the media. Melissa was stunned. "We live in a system that filters who deserves attention," she said, "and that's what's killing hope." What started as a small room is now an unofficial network. Melissa and her team at the map room collect data, analyze satellite imagery, even develop software to flag anomalies in wilderness mapping. They're not just searching for Liam, they're searching for Elijah Nia Deshawn and dozens of names long erased from public memory. One of their biggest breakthroughs, identifying pattern zones, disappearances clustered along the borders between public and private land, especially in old mining zones where no one's watching, no cameras, no cell signal. That data was presented to the Oregon State Legislature. It didn't lead to new laws yet, but it forced officials to finally sit down and listen. That, Melissa says, was their first real victory, making the system look at what it wanted to ignore. Then one day, a 5-year-old Black boy named Zion vanished in the woods of Arkansas. He was found 3 days later, thanks to a high-risk map the map room had shared with local rescuers. Melissa said only one thing. "For the first time in 5 years, I felt like I did something Liam would be proud of. Because in the end, this isn't just about finding a boy. It's about reclaiming the right to be remembered for those the world chose to forget." At the first annual gathering of the map room, someone asked Melissa, "Do you still think Liam is alive?" She paused for a long time, eyes fixed on the empty chair beside her, then quietly replied, "I don't know, but I know this: if anyone ever asks, I want my son to be remembered as the beginning." The silence in that room wasn't empty. It was full of shared pain, belief, and hope. No one needed to answer. No one needed to believe. But everyone understood. Some questions are not meant to be solved. They're meant to be remembered. Liam Carter is part of that question now. Every new flyer posted, every satellite map reviewed, every child found or still missing is a reminder. Some journeys may never reach their destination, but they must still be taken. And sometimes, in a world that's far too loud, what we need most is to listen. To listen for a question still unanswered. To listen for the name of a little boy who vanished in the forest, but left behind an echo that refuses to fade. So, what about you? What do you believe really happened to Liam Carter? If you've stayed with this story to the very last second, maybe you felt it too. Helplessness, the ache and the quiet power of unconditional love. The disappearance of Liam Carter isn't just an unsolved case. It's a mirror, reflecting the reality so many families face: indifference, erasure, and the cracks in a broken system. Whoever you are, a parent, a sibling, a neighbor, or just someone watching from afar, we hope this story leaves something in your heart, a belief that every life is worth searching for, that every child deserves to be remembered, and that sometimes the simple act of not turning away is where change begins. Thank you for listening. And keep looking deep into the dark, because somewhere out there, someone may still be waiting to be seen.